Hey, it's Noel from Country Credits. I'm here with Matt Geroux. He's a Nashville producer and songwriter. How are you, Matt?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Are you in your home studio?
I currently am. Yeah, I'd show you the panoramic, but my phone is on a ghetto rig. So,
So, do you want to tell us about like your journey to Nashville and how you got involved in the production side of things rather than maybe being an artist or some of the other aspects of the industry?
yeah. So I was in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Originally grew up in like the Detroit area, and then high school moved to Grand Rapids, which I still love Grand Rapids. And I had a really good local music scene, and my brother and I were in a band, and my parents, we would, beg them to pay for recording for our band, and
Awesome.
eventually they were sick of it, and they were like, okay, maybe we'll buy you guys like a 16 track digital recorder. So they did, and it was kind of before the computer recording was really cool to just to put some age on myself. But I don't know, after football season my freshman year of high school, I opened up the recorder and just got obsessed with it. And started recording all like the local bands in my high school for free, or as many that would. It sounded like terrible. I was yeah, a good probably 6 years of just sounding like trash. But eventually, it got better and better. And by the time I was like 17 or 16, I was a junior and senior. I don't know. I was starting to make some money doing it, and these bands that were adults were coming over to my parents' house, and they thought it was my house. And my parents would get home from work.
So funny.
Um, they'd be like, what's all that commotion?" I'd be like, "Oh yeah, sorry, my parents just got home." And they'd be like, "Oh," and they'd be like, "How old are you?" And I was like, 16 or 17. And they'd be like, "This is weird." But yeah, it worked out. And then eventually had to, get my own place. So I leased a space downtown Grand Rapids, where my friend had built a studio, and he had an extra control room. So we just like split the live room days. And yeah, it was stayed pretty busy. And I just remember kind of the peak was recording a terrible metal band that was like asking me like for like a huge discount, and I was like, I'm gonna be broke. Like I'd be better off at McDonald's, and just couldn't make a good living, and had some good things going on the pop side with my good friend AJ Pruce. We used to co-produce together, and we had landed this one band that we had produced a record deal with Tooth and Nail Records. So we both were just like, okay, maybe we should move to Nashville. And I don't know, I think 2014, January 1st, I think we moved down here.
Nice.
And yeah, it's funny because I'd never listened to country music growing up or anything.
Really?
No, it was like
Yeah,
a foreign
crazy.
op in Detroit. It was all hip hop, R&B, pop, soul, like so it was just like it's kind of a joke, like country music was a lot more, we thought it was so twangy and like kind of redneck. So I just didn't know anything about it. But of course, obviously now I love it.
That's really funny. So for people that don't really understand the whole like stuff about production and what we might be talking about, like how does production, well, first of all, like what does a producer do? And then on
Yeah.
top of that, like how does it differ from like mixing and mastering and then like the whole nine yards?
So producing is super involved with the artist. They're basically trusting you with their sound. So like I always say like the same or a different producer could do the same song. Like if you had 20 different producers do the same song, that all sound like totally different. So it's kind of your vision, your idea, collaborating with the artist, like
Mhm.
um, agreeing upon what kind of vibe you want. Because you could have a song become a really rock hard banger or like a upbeat vibe, or you
Mhm.
could do it sad, and have these undertones of sadness. Like there's so many different ways to do a song. So yeah, really, it's a very big responsibility. If a song is not good or not doing well, it's probably the producer's fault. If the song was written well, but if it's a banger too, it's also the producer's fault in a good way. So it's a high pressure job, I'd say, but very creative and takes a lot of trust from not only the artist but their team, and if they
Mhm.
have a label, their label and management. So it's pretty amazing that you get to bring life to something that everybody on their team and them they believe in. So it's yeah, I definitely never taken it for granted. And every new song I ever do, I'm always like, holy crap, I can't believe I'm the guy.
I
So
guess it's
it's
yours for a living now.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Been
cool.
actually all I've ever done. I've never had a real job. I've never entered. Um, yeah,
Wow.
so if this doesn't work out, I'm gonna be a Walmart greeter.
That sounds good. So how long does it typically like take to produce a song, or does it really vary on just if they get the vocals right and they get things right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's different for every song. I've had songs come together in 2 or 3 days, sometimes even one day if the deadline is there. And it's like, oh, this is it just works out. And then there's those, pain in the butt ones where we're talking like, a couple months if the deadline, there's no due date and the artist and you are willing to you fight for it. And sometimes too much time is a bad thing, but there's been plenty of times where having just, like even 6 months, you just you find the thing finally and it's great. But I think I've kind of decided recently like 2 weeks is a great time frame to start to finish because your mind is never really lost from the song and you kind of had all your original instincts, but you have a little time to mess around
Right.
and touch it up. So I think 2 weeks is perfect. But there's definitely been some recent things where like I had to do 3 songs, like master scale in about 10 days, and it somehow worked out. But when I found out I was going to have to do that, I was like, "There's no way." So a lot of Adderall. Right.
Um, do you feel like you clash with the artists ever on vision, or is it normally just you already have a relationship with them and it just kind of works?
Yeah, I think if you're somebody's producer, you probably see pretty eye to eye about like the general vision of any song you do, and you probably agree. But the big thing too is like they're the artist and they're the ones that have to play the song forever if it does well.
Mm.
So the artist is always right for the most part. And definitely, if I disagree with something or it's just a terrible idea, like I'll say it. But overall, like I'm so open to try things, and usually artists are open to let like me try things that maybe they think is weird, and then hopefully there's always a middle ground. I think, um, but yeah, I think in a situation I've heard of like artists like famous rock and roll bands like hating their producer, and like for me, it'd be weird if like me and the artist like we're clashing because so much of it is so.
That would be so terrible. Um, you're obviously very well known for what you do with Josh Ross, which is so cool. He's kind of just blown up recently, like we were just discussing. And so, how did your relationship with Josh, come to be, and where is it at now? And what's it like working with him and all the stuff? And is that where you record with him for the most time?
Yeah, we do everything in here. And Josh is the best. He's one of my best friends. And I think he's just one of the nicest, most caring, loyal, genuine. You could use all those kind words, but just has the biggest heart and is one of those people, whether we're working on something or not at the moment, like we'll touch base with each other just to say hey. And that's awesome that we've gotten to that level beyond just like work. But
Right.
yeah, I met Josh at just like kind of the perfect time. I was like between I I think I was like really slammed with a bunch of like singles and EPs, and then I had like this little kind of breathing room before the next cycle, and then his old producer was a little too busy to do his next single in the time frame that he wanted it. So our mutual friend Mason Thornley suggested me, and so we went and got a lunch slash beer. And yeah, we just hit it off and saw it the same way. And he gave me a nice, really small deadline. He was like, I got to follow the Spotify algorithm. Can you get this done in like 2 weeks or a week or something? It was something crazy, but I was like, yeah, why not? So we did it. And then that was the first thing we did. And from there, he came back, which was great. And then the next song we did, I think we both kind of trusted each other and knew each other well and started finding our vibe together. And like my big thing with him was like he had like this raspy voice that he was kind of afraid to use.
Right.
And I just remember him apologizing one time when he got raspy, and I was like, that was so great. Like, is that natural? And he was like, yeah. So I like encouraged him to just be raspy because who doesn't love a good raspy voice and a sad song, you know? So now he's come into his voice so much over the last year and a half since we started working together. Yeah, and it's just been amazing. He's really blown up and found his own crowd, and I'm really proud of him. And I'm honored to be a part of his team and be his producer.
Yeah, now at this point, I feel like you probably get right in the studio and know exactly what each other are thinking. So it just must be that much easier than it was prior. Um, when did you record Trouble? Like, was that, I don't remember its release date. Sorry. But like, was that like earlier on in your
No, so actually, I had a time hop, and I think it was in August of no, sorry, it was in July of last year. No, sorry,
neither of us remember.
what month is it? Yeah, so it's
Wait, what? It's August.
so it was about 2 weeks ago from now, like early August, mid August, a year ago.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, thank you, time hop. But yeah, so that was the first song I like recorded, produced in my current studio. We had just me and my wife just moved here and built the studio, renovated the garage, of course, because you got to rock the garage studio. And I didn't have my vocal booth yet, even. And Josh was just standing in the corner. And yeah, we just had headphones on, and we recorded Trouble in here. And then I had all the players came in here and did their thing. We always do it individual. I don't really do like the music row style where everybody plays together, just because I'm a little more one minded. Like I want to hear each part and kind of perfect it. So, but yeah, this is where we make the magic, and it's a fun vibe in here. And there's always some beer. There's always whatever you want, water or beer,
So
with.
cool. I love your studio. It's amazing.
Thank
So then the booth came later.
Booth came. Yeah, that's a whole nother interview. But yeah, the booth ended up coming a little bit later. So and that's been great too. Josh likes the booth. Even though it gets a little hot in there. But yeah, so
Song
we're
sounded so good. It sounded like fully professional. You would never know if it was in a garage studio or if it was in like anywhere. It just was amazing.
well, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I we you saw the outside like spray painted like the glass, so like nobody from the outside knows it's here. Um, and yeah, I've never had a noise complaint because thanks to Music City Acoustics, they treated the room and to crank the music up, and so far so good.
What do you like? How has it changed down there since you've been in Nashville for a while now? Like, um, I feel like more and more people have home studios, and that's where a lot's happening versus these, I guess, I don't know how to say like a corporate studio or something, but like what do you have a feeling on like the ratio of like how much music gets recorded in home studios nowadays?
It's a lot. Yeah, I love a nice big music row studio or the commercial space, but I don't know. There's something also really just you're not really caring about anything when you're working from home on a song. It's just like you're comfortable, and that's like exactly how it sounds when it's your space. Whereas if you're going to like a multi-million-dollar studio on Music Row, you're kind of like everything sounds so great because they have the highest of high end everything. And then you get in your car or back to your space and you're like, oh man, this doesn't actually sound as great as I thought it did. So there's like an intimidation factor, a little bit of just the shiny buttons and stuff. But there's a I think for the right artist, those studios will always be necessary. But for kind of my style of production, it's just so what we call in the box that it would just be silly for me to do everything in one of those and not
Yeah.
cost effective. So I think a lot of people have shifted to their home studio to do a majority of their either overdubs or the detail work.
Yeah, so I personally feel like it's always so much more comfortable, and I don't know, I think a lot of artists agree with that, to just do it in a home studio versus a big thing, but the big things do have that like wow factor. So I see both sides.
Yeah, I try to keep mine like dark with cool lighting. That I like. stupid way of getting wow factor, but it's probably not even that cool.
So what's like your typical day now that you're with the core? And I guess you could talk about like how you got with the core and like how busy you are. I know you've been busier and busier. And your name has been out there. Like I feel like so many people just know you by now, which is awesome.
Well, that's scary, but yeah, the core are first of all just incredible people. Everybody out at that office on that team, it's like if you're there, they're just so nice and great from the heart. And then the work ethic is crazy there. You know, my computer just went off, but Chief and Simon, Tracy, Tim. So Tim's my day-to-day manager, and like he just really keeps me on track, make sure I don't go crazy. We'll say, is this too much for you? Like it's never like forced like too much work or anything like that. And like,
That's
you know,
cool.
they believe in everybody that's on their team. And like this the second that it even came up, like, hey, we want to sign you to our new producer division, I was like, oh my God, I'm honored to even be in consideration for that. So we had talked and went to dinner and had a bunch of conversations about what that would look like. And ultimately I was like, this is a great time to kind of take that step to have help managing my production and
Mhm.
my day schedule, because I'm terrible. Like I want to say yes to everything that comes my way, because I love music and I always think that I could do something if I believe in it or even like it. Really, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So in the past, I've gotten when I was on my own producing and doing my own scheduling, it's just a train wreck. Like I'd be like, wow, I have like 12 songs and 12 different artists, and it
Mhm.
was like doing. So they help a lot with just you know staying focused and doing less work or less projects, but more quality and stuff like that. So, but no, it's really the most incredible team. And I think Brandon said the same thing. It's like a family. Everybody's super supportive and all about each other. And yeah, glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I feel like you're definitely living the dream. It's so
It,
cool.
life is great.
I love the production. Like, I don't know about production stuff. Like, if you were telling me what you're doing, I would have like a semi idea, but not like a full idea. But I love it. And I love like watching it, the transition from how things used to be produced to how they are now. Do you I always wonder, like, do producers love the old school way? Like
Yeah.
looking back and thinking about that versus nowadays, or are you just like, no, I love like technology?
Well, I think about it like had I been born in like the 60s or 70s, like you had to cut tape and like I'm really uncoordinated. So like I probably wouldn't have been great at cutting tape like in a straight line and all that. It was just a lot harder. And like you couldn't just buy a laptop and like have some great plugins that make it. You had to really work hard and kind of there's so many presets nowadays, and like so you could just type like lead vocal preset and it sounds pretty great if you mess with it just a little bit. Whereas back then, they had to create those settings like on analog gear, and it's like the talent level was just so next level. So I think we're all chasing that sound still, but like just the quality has gotten so much clearer and crisp. And most producers will tell you, like, especially with like drums and certain things, like we're always trying to like find what they did back then, like with that warmth and like that kind of more raw analog sound. So there's beauty to both, because if I'm trying to make a trappy banger with 808s and stuff and make it sound crispy, like the modern technology is always going to win. But um, yeah, there's so many positives to both. But for ease, yeah, I'll take nowadays production over that, just because of I don't think I would have even been a producer back then.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like I've always that's I don't know, that's just so cool to me. But what are some of like the I guess like some of the top producers that you look up to, and then in addition to that, like the best piece of advice you've gotten when it comes to production and like some of the mistakes you've made and like all of that. Like, can you talk on that?
Loaded. So country music, the moment I kind of like realized I could do it or would want to even do it, was when Joey Moy started producing Florida Georgia Line. Remember, I heard Cruise and I was like, pretty sick. Like, rock and roll guitars, big drums, like with some banjo and dobro and twangy country boy vocals. I was like, that's pretty cool. That was peak bro country. I was like, I can do it because I was up there, and so yeah, naturally fell into that. So Joey Moy, and I recently got to meet him, and he was so great and nice. That was a fanboy moment for me. But
Literally.
anything he does, I just want to listen to it just to curiosity, see what he did. I love the sonics of his stuff in the country world, but there's so many great producers that I look up to in the pop world because they just have like the creativity in the pop world is so I think next level with the way they sounds and I don't know, like you got to get like Max Martin for me is of course like he's just insane and innovative and has been for decades now. So like to get that to never not be cool like that, like I feel like I'm in my like early mid 30s and like I'm like if I'm still like making really cool tracks that like the kids like when I'm 50, that's a win.
Yeah.
But X has been doing everything from like Backstreet Boys back in like the 90s to stuff now that and it's like he stayed up with the times. So to me, probably the biggest inspiration just because of the way he's stayed relevant and I think that's really hard to do because it's easy to get set in your ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the other question?
Was about your I know, I said a lot. It was about
I can tell you all about
it was
mistakes.
about inspiration, like if any other producer have said something in an interview that really inspired you. Um, and then on top of that, like maybe some of the mistakes that you've made and like how it's okay to make mistakes because you just kind of grow from it. Like, I don't know, stuff like that.
Yeah, Rick Rubin actually, he's always a great interview to watch because his production style is very he challenges the artist in a way where he just somehow has this thing like to bring the best out of themselves. Like he doesn't have to say a lot or do a lot like on the job, but like and of course out on like what he said, but he's yeah, I think he said a lot of things like trust your instincts, like don't compare, don't like a being your mix to somebody else is like the worst idea you could do. And just yeah, really trust yourself, I think is the biggest thing because all my producer friends when we get together, like there used to be this producer breakfast that me and like Chris Sly and a couple other people would go to, and it just felt like a therapy session. Like we'd all be like, "You guys ever like just not feel like you know what you're doing?" like, and it's just a bunch of producers like talking honestly about how sometimes you overthink, and I think you're lying if you're a producer and you just don't overthink, like and compare and stuff. But at the end of the day, when you have those moments, you just got to be like, well, I'm going to trust my instincts and do what got me here to this point, and hopefully people keep digging it. And mostly just the artists that you're working with. Um, that's the tough thing is when it comes to mistakes. I mean, I don't know if this is a mistake, but like there's like genuinely days like you're working on a song and you're just like creatively not feeling it, like not because you don't like the song, but like you're kind of you're tired, you're worn out, like you don't have those creative juices flowing, and you're like, but you have to work on it because there's deadlines and
Anyway.
you're a person. So yeah, that's always tough in those situations, but luckily that doesn't happen too often. But I think time management has been for me in my career the biggest flaw until the core really like they've helped me a lot with that, but like just thinking I can do so many different things at once and then looking at my schedule and my wife being like, hey, I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks, like because I'm so busy. And so time management, I think producers, if you're new or old, just always watch out for that. Don't say yes to everything. Kind of take on all that you can handle, and then people, if they really want to work with you, will wait. That's. But the other mistakes are just just I think communication is a big thing, and it's so easy to work a 20-hour day on production and not text somebody back, and because I do that. Oh, I'll do it when I go to bed, or I'll do it like dinner or tomorrow, and then you're like 3 days later you get a bump or like, hey, you're an asshole. You're an. Then you're like, no, I promise. But yeah, communication's important. Artists feel forgotten, but yeah, there's so many things. But overall, yeah, I just think be honest and trust yourself. And if you have a good grasp at production, it'll probably work out.
Mm, that was a good answer. You got through all of it.
Thank you.
Do you like when you're driving and like I always think like I'm driving the car and just listen to music, like I focus on certain things that I guess I'm like more attuned to. I'm a guitar player. I usually am like attuned to that more. Like, do you always think of the production now when you hear songs?
Oh, it's horrible because there's so many great ones that I've been like, I don't like this song because I don't like the snare drum, or like like it's a curse. Like I always tell my wife Rosie, I'll be like, oh, like I just can never get away from it. Like we'll be like in the pool or on the lake, and it's like everybody's having the best time, and like the song's playing, and I have like that kind of look. I'm like, oh, that's a cool bass sound. Like, or it can ruin or make, but it just never you never turn it off. So that's tough. Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse because I just miss the days where I thought every at a certain point early in my career before it was even a career, everything I listened to just sounded awesome. I was just so picky. You're like, oh, there's too much mid range. This song sucks. But hate
Trust
it.
me, most people do not realize it, so that's okay.
But no, I think drums for me are like the biggest thing. Like I listen to a song, and if the drums just are awesome or feel right, not even like the playing, just the sounds,
Mm,
I'm all in. I like
that's
punch.
I always wondered that, so I had to ask that question.
It's
That would be the answer. Because how could you not? Like, if you're working in it full time, like you would just notice it. I mean, that's like anything.
yeah, I'm sure like movie directors, it's gotta be terrible movies.
It's
And it's
literally
the same role, director and producer. Like in the music industry, it's like kind of the same creative
Mhm.
control. Yeah, but that's I usually like if I'm having a drink or 10, the music sounds less judgy and I'm more able to just kind of enjoy it. So
That's
drinking, that's the positive of drinking.
you have like a favorite song, favorite produced song, or is that like a weird question?
Ooh, that's a great question. Um, I know I do. I'm just trying to think of the
That's
one
a
I
really hard question, actually.
you kind of know you learn the answer to that when you buy like or like look at new studio monitors. It's like what's the first song I'm going to play to know if this song sounds good, and I can't think of it right now. I do love like the band Camino's production. I tend to listen to that a because I love them and the music, but also just the production sounds so great. The mixing, like just all the decisions that were made on those, like the new record. I love all their stuff. They've really done just sounds great. So, big fan of their stuff. And in the country world, anything that Jim Cooley does, like I love listening to because it just he packs so much punch into a song and gives it like almost like a stupid amount of energy. When I say stupid, playing for not like it doesn't suck. It's like so where it's like I can't believe he pulled that off because like I'll work really hard to get my premix like so the artist can kind of hear what I'm thinking, and I'm like, oh man, I should probably just mix this because it sounds great. And then like we'll send it to Jim Cooley, and then he sends it back. I'm like, man, fuck at mixing. Like, what did you sound so good? So yeah, anything that he does, I'll listen to, and is probably my favorite mix at least. He's great.
Wow, that's really, really funny. Do you want to like speak about your upcoming work with Austin, or I guess you're currently working on it with Austin?
Yeah, so Austin, he used to be in 641 and he has a solo project coming out and it's a 7 song EP and we've done that through the summer and we just are wrapping it up I think on Friday. So it's really interesting because a lot of artists would want to go kind of safe
Mhm.
uh country music and he was like I want to just do the kind of music I love, but he's naturally country with his voice and his roots being from Kentucky, but he was like, let's do like, almost punk rock meets pop. Of course, influencing a lot of the indie pop that we like Nightly, the band Camino, Laney, bringing in some of those like light synthy elements or maybe like pop digital elements. But yeah, so I'm really excited about his project, and
It's
um
so different. I'm really excited to see it and hear it
yeah,
all.
I sent you a song, and it's yeah, I can't really compare it to anything, and that's kind of for me just to work on something that like we weren't really trying to make it sound like super commercial. We weren't like trying to make it like anything really than other than what we would do it, and if it felt right, we were like, yeah, it's great. Let's keep it, and then so because at a certain point, a lot of the stuff you do is like, okay, well, you don't want to just make a terrible track or like just a weird track that's going to be like niche market or whatever. But like in his case, I think I don't know. It's all bangers. Like all I would say 6 of the 7 songs are like you could have Pyro on if they were live. So he, it's
I
really fun.
love it. He's so awesome. This is gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I'm pumped about it. I think it comes out next year, so you gotta wait. But
Yeah.
oh,
Mhm.
I think maybe a single comes out in the fall, but I don't know if it's all.
Have you ever co-produced a song?
Yeah, it's really fun. Because you both kind of figure out what your strengths are and just pass it along, and that's really common in the pop world where you'll
Mhm.
pass it around, and it's sort of fun to see what somebody did, and like then you'll get the session and kind of add your thing. Not as common in country though. Like country, you're kind of just you're the guy and you make a. But I'm totally open to co-production and love it. I think it's an insight into like it like you see what other people would do to that same song, and like but they don't have like neither of you have like the ability to just do everything you'd want. You have to agree on it, and yeah, it's a really cool process though when you're truly like side by side one.
Yeah, like, and it must be so hard to stop. Like, I feel like I would almost get like addicted and be like, I want to just try it this way and then just try it this way and then just.
Yeah, it's like Skrillex and Diplo had that project called I don't know how to pronounce it, but Jack U,
I know
and it was yeah, so sick, and they both said like it just complemented each other's weaknesses and strengths, and that's why it turned out to be such a great record for
you're
Bieber.
so crazy. Do you listen to mostly country now, or is it like you clearly like a lot of genres, I would think?
Actually, never listen to country.
What?
I listen to country to like check in and make sure I'm like not still kind of in a certain lane, but
Right.
I don't know. I have my moments though. Like I get in a little phase where like because I do like a lot of the country music that's out now.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know, something about getting away from what you do every day.
Right.
You finding influence in pop is like really fun because if you can somehow bring some of those elements into country, it's fun. And same with rock and roll. I love rock music, like
I
even
agree
metal.
with that. Literally all of the best stuff coming out right now is not just I mean, it's country, but it's not like traditional country.
Yeah, and I think like I've produced songs that are supposed to sound like really traditional country, and it's those are the hardest songs for me because it doesn't come natural. So like, for somebody like Josh, where he's down to try whatever, like whether it's like we've made some really almost terrible decisions, and then we're like, okay, let's pull it back because it's too weird. But cut, and it's all usually from the pop world, like trends in that. But then we kind of dial it back and find a good middle ground. But yeah, it's there's always a way to add a pop element or a rock element to a country song is
Yeah.
what I've.
And I love traditional too, but I actually probably love it more. But I mean, I really love it all. I love like hearing all the different genres now be like country, which is so random.
Yeah, it's crazy how like the popular country station in your hometown will play like 3 songs in a row that sound completely different. Like it's like different eras, but they're all hits right now because some of it will be so organic and just kind of real, and others are just so like mass produced bangers that also are great. And that's kind of what makes Morgan Wallen so awesome. Is like he's down to do whatever. He'll have those like trappy bangers, and then like you can just hear the drummer in the room on the other ones.
So cool. I love it. That's so
Yeah, he's he's the best right now, in my opinion.
yeah, for sure. Do you have I don't know. I want to ask about advice for up and coming producers, but it's kind
Yeah.
of like you just gotta work and do your thing and meet and network, I'm sure. But I don't know, like, what would you say?
Yeah, it's definitely like a addicting thing to get into, and you never satisfied. Just know that going in. Uh, Always gonna be thinking if you buy this one thing, it's gonna change and you're gonna be a good producer all of a sudden. And might help a little bit, but you're still got to make those good production choices. And it's that I think just messing around though and like making mistakes, like trying not to be incredible right away, just like learning and taking your time, like record for free or people for free and like let it sound terrible and just play with it, figure it out, and then eventually like it will sound good once you learn and just move buttons. And really, I think to do it though, you just got to be patient. And it's like every day I feel like I learn a little something. Like I feel like I would consider myself like a Pro Tools expert, but like there's always some Pro Tools where I'm like, holy, like that's crazy. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
but
That's
yeah, it's like I think really sticking with it is the big thing. Because a lot of people like get into it for a little bit and they're like, no, this is too hard. Like I can't make stuff sound good enough.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure. And so,
Do it randomly, but not like professionally. So I think sticking with it is the big thing. If you really want to do it, just
all right.
take your time, and the work will come if you're good.
Mhm. Do you want to speak about anything with your songwriting career? I know you're signed right now, which is super cool.
Yeah, signed to BMG New York, which the New York thing is interesting because it was just random. A good friend of mine named Frank Turner, he was signed to BMG New York and like would do trips to Nashville and have me make like tracks, and we would just write together for like 3 days straight, like all day, all night. And I don't know, we ended up getting a bunch of like good sync stuff together. So I'd signed like a 1 song deal with BMG New York. And then I signed like it kept happening to the point where it was like, oh, maybe we should just sign Matt to a deal. So yeah, then I signed a 3 year pub deal with them, and it's been um and yeah. Besides that, it's like I never really considered myself a writer. Um, Even though like you don't even realize you're writing a lot of times when you're writing, like a lot of producing, if you're getting your hands dirty in it and changing lyrics, melodies, like, and then even in like the pop world, building a track, like you're a writer. So like the country world, it doesn't really work like that a lot of times. But yeah. And then of course just started doing that more often. And then once you get a pub deal, you have to fulfill X amount of rights. So
Mhm.
yeah, I started writing a lot, but it was one of those things I was never really seeking. It kind of just came my way, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And now it's fun, and I love writing songs or being a part of writing songs. And it's really exciting to just every day you don't know what you're gonna get. And um, I feel like when you get a good one, the high is uncomparable.
Right.
And sometimes that song never even sees the light of day that you think is going to change your life. So it's so random. It really is the lottery. So
Mhm.
um glad I'm not solely a songwriter, because that grind is
Mm.
so hard, and like a lot of letdowns, or like, oh, you got to hold with like Wallen or Luke Combs or somebody, and then it just never happens. Like
I
it's
know.
horrible, yeah. But like that's the same. Like whenever like we get a pitch like for Josh or something, like it's so easy to say like, yeah, I like that song, let's hold it. But like I always try to think like, are we actually going to cut this song? Because then the writer, you don't want to get their hopes up. So
Right. Um,
respect to the out there, man. That's the grind. And I'm glad I'm like a half writer
yeah,
because
that's pretty cool. You got like a life going for you. Got like
yeah, the producer side will always be my baby and always be my main thing. So
that's so awesome. Well, we love it. We love your work. You're so talented.
oh, thank
So I don't know. You've probably seen have been any of my interviews with the 3 questions. So I want to ask you the same question. So best place to hang out in Nashville? I mean it could be like a place to eat, it could be a park or whatever. Favorite all-time artist and then favorite up-and-coming artist.
okay. Well, favorite place to hang in Nashville when I'm like downtown. I don't like, just always end up at Red Door. So it's like I guess I'm gonna say Red Door because then you kind of know everybody there because it's all just industry and it's always fun and so that's like downtown. But I gotta rep Hendersonville real quick because that's where I live. Like after sessions, a lot of times we'll go to Jolly Ollies because they're like the only bar open till 3 a.m. So uh, Hendersonville Jolly Ollies.
Super cool.
Yeah, favorite artist of all time might be a shocker, Prince.
Whoa, that is a shocker.
Yeah, so Prince is just I saw him live twice when he was alive.
Wow.
Once and four, and that was like the greatest show I've ever seen because he's
Wow.
just sitting there. And then I saw him. He had like a series of like just random shows at arenas where he would just announce it like that day or the day before. And when I lived in Grand Rapids, like Chicago was only 3 hours away, so he announced the Chicago show. So I drove to Chicago and got a ticket somehow. And that show was like the next best show I've ever seen, which so he like topped himself. And I was like, this is crazy. And um yeah, like my mom always was like a big Prince fan. So of course that like I always liked the music, but like just learning about how like he produced all of his own records and like was just all about like work with what you have in front of you. So like, his records sound like kind of unique because he was just like in the 80s like the Lynn drum machine, he was just programming his ideas and created his own vibe. And I just think he's super talented songwriter, producer, artist, entertainer, all the above.
Mhm.
um, yeah, Prince for sure.
Oh, cool. That was a good, that was a, yeah, that was definitely a shocker. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
You
I
can say Josh as your favorite up and coming artist.
Josh or us. Yeah, Josh is definitely one of like my favorite up and coming artists, but I have a few. I mean, Brandon also. Like I think Brandon when he gets some songs out, it's gonna be so good because he's just got like that R&B kind of side of country
100%.
that I don't know. Like we've written some songs and it's just cool what he's got going for him. And like when you can kind of have that buttery, soulful vocal over like a kind of country track, I don't know, it's gonna work. And I have high hopes for what he puts out. But um I don't know, there's so many. Austin, Dylan James, he played me some of his new stuff and it's like outlaw rock and roll country bangers and like it's so good. So yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of good people. My buddy Joseph Jett, like he's a indie pop guy, but he's got an incredible set of songs coming out. So yeah, there's so much good music always, and a lot of people that don't get the recognition that they deserve. So
I agree. It's
yeah,
crazy. Just keep talking about it. There's like so many.
I know. I'll find like random songs on like suggestions, and
Literally
like
same.
have like 3,000 plays on like a song or less. And it's like I'm like, this is the greatest song I've ever heard.
I know.
That's
It's
but yeah, so that's I don't know. Everything though overall is great, fun, busy, and I'm happy to be here.
That's so awesome. Well, we loved having you, and we cannot wait to see more from Josh Ross and all the other artists you work with and anything else that you might be doing.
Thank you so much, Noel. Have a great night.
So thank you.